Well, good evening all. This is Patricia and I am traveling for history. I'm in Burlington, Vermont at the top of Church Street. And I'm going to talk about this building right here in front of us, which is known as Richardson Place. The information I'm going to be quoting is from the UVM education, uvm.edu historic preservation area of their website. Awesome information there, by the way, on a lot of buildings in Burlington. All right. Quote, the earliest of these commercial style buildings is the Richardson Block, presently known as Richardson Place. Built in 1895 by Albert E. Richardson and W.B. McKillip, it was designed by Albany architect Walter Dickson of Withers and Dickson for $50,000. The 4.5-story building was intended to accommodate commercial space on the first 2 floors and apartments on the upper stories. The Richardson is, in its most basic form, a rectangular 5x5 bay brick building. And when they say bays, they mean windows. The round towers dividing the bays in the primary western facade, capped with finials, are characteristic of what Dickson termed as quote-unquote Scoto-French style, a blend of French Chateauesque and Scottish baronial revival. Let me just explain French Chateauesque briefly. Chateau is a French word for castle. So when we think of castles, we think of buildings with a large mass that are of stone. Certainly brick is a form of stone. With turrets. I mean, look at these turrets on this thing. So that's a French Chateauesque style. I mean, it looks like a castle. That's the style of the building. All right, getting back to this quote, their asymmetry and protrusion from the wall plane complex, the appearance of the facade, but still bring order and organization between each story. The windows are 1/1 double-hung sash with brick lintels, except for the 3 arrow-slit windows that interrupt the brick facade near the top of each tower. And if we look, let me pan in for you. Oh, I am panned in. So those slit windows up there. Well, that's much better. Now I can get the whole darn building in the picture. Gads. 2 center bays each feature a pair of windows and a balcony overlooking Church Street, which is adorned in the center with an iron R. All of these careful but thoughtful details give the Richardson an elegant appearance, which appealed to Burlington residents at the time of its erection. Early front-page newspaper advertisements boasted of the Richardson as, quote, the largest and handsomest store in the state, unquote, and its state-of-the-art elevator. There is no good time to film near Church Street. Pearl Street is a very busy thoroughfare, and just really there's no good time of day. The first floor of the Richardson initially housed McKillip and Smith Company until 1901, when H.W. Allen and Company announced in an issue of the Vermonter that they had bought McKillip stock and would be relocating to Richardson from 8385 Church Street. The dry goods retailer occupied the first 2 stories of the Richardson before it was taken over in 1911 by Frank D. Abernethy. H.W. Allen's business partner and evolved into Abernethy's department store, which came to be synonymous with the Chateauesque building on the east corner of Church and Pearl Streets. Abernethy's even replaced the R's on the balconies with A's, and a fitting and symbolic act for this transformation. Signs hand-painted high on the southern facade advertised Abernethy's department store. Faint traces of a ghost sign can still be spotted today if one looks closely, very closely. Let me just say very closely. I remember when the A's were on the balconies. I remember Abernethy's department store too. It was a high-end department store. They sold, I remember they sold fancy gloves for ladies. I mean, who wore those even in the 1980s? In 1919, Abernethy's purchased the adjacent property at 10 Church Street. It's that little white building right there, that building right there. So they're talking about. So that's 10 Church Street, and expanded into the building in 1929. Originally a 3-story brick structure dating to 1877, it was remodeled in 1936 in the Art Deco style. The 3-bay facade is white stucco with red and gray geometric decorations characteristic of the era. It has continuously been maintained, making it one of the few authentic Art Deco buildings left in the state of Vermont. Abernethy's men's shop opened at 10 Church Street after its renovation, and it became integral to the main department store's facade. Despite being a prominent long-term fixture on Church Street, Abernethy's went out of business in November 1982. In June of the following year, J. Richard Corley purchased the property and spent $3 million to renovate it and bring it up to code. The first 2 floors were gutted in preparation for new retail stores, and the upper stories were renovated into office spaces. It was renamed Richardson Place in honor of Albert E. Richardson. Corley even restored the iron R's to the balconies, overlooking Church Street as were originally found in the building. However, Corley's business model for Richardson Place was not sustainable, and initial focus on selling more expensive and sophisticated clothing lost them potential customers as well. So unable to recover, the space closed in spring of 1986. So it now houses a variety of businesses, some restaurants, coffee shop. When it was built, there were 4 retail shops originally on the first floor until, of course, it was systematically bought out by Frank Abernethy. So those businesses help support the place. All right. So beautiful building, and if you're going to come down to Church Street to shop, to eat, you definitely want to check this building out because it's quite beautiful. It was listed on the National Register of Historic Places for the top of Church Street Historic District in 1974. All right, so thanks so much for coming along with me. And until next time, you have a great evening. Bye.